Today's strand is colonization and development under colonial rule in Ghana. Okay, so at the end of this video, you must demonstrate the understanding of the gradual process of colonization and recall the initial steps the British took to colonize Ghana, and then to show understanding of how the various parts of the country were brought together. So let's start with establishing British rule in Ghana. The arrival of the Europeans in Ghana, that's Gold Coast. The first Europeans who arrived in West Africa in 15th century, that is from 1471, were the Portuguese. They came to Gold Coast and other parts of Africa to trade. They traded in gold, ivory, and grain with the local people. They built castles and forts to help and protect themselves in their trading activities. So some of these castles were Elmina Castle, Cape Coast castles, and etc. So during the 16th and 17th century, the English merchants arrived in Ghana. So that was Gold Coast. They built the Cape Coast Castle as their headquarters and traded in slaves, gold, silver, and pepper. In 1593, the Dutch traders followed the British to Ghana, Gold Coast. They came to capture the Elmina Castle built by the Portuguese and drove the Portuguese away in 1642. Initially, the European trade with the people involved goods and slaves. The Europeans brought goods such as guns and gunpowder, cloth and cloths, alcoholic drinks, metals, pans, leather goods, and pots, and exchanged them for gold, ivory, gun, hides, livestock, and slaves. So this type of trade, which did not involve the use of money, is called what? Barter trade. So barter trade do not involve what? Money. Okay. So during the 19th century, after the abolishment of slave trade, only 3 European nations remained in the country. They were the British, Dutch, and Danes. The Danes left in 1850 after selling their castles to the British. So the British were the only European nation in Gold Coast after the Dutch gave their castles and fought to them. So now let's discuss how the British colonized Gold Coast. The British did not plan to colonize Gold Coast from the beginning. They only wanted to protect the parts of Gold Coast where their forts and castles were built. This was to protect their trading activities. So in 1821, the British government appointed Sir Charles McCarthy, who was then governor in Sierra Leone, as governor on the part of Gold Coast, where the British have their settlement. Sir Charles McCarthy wanted to protect their trading activities at the southern part of the country and decided to join hands with the chiefs in the Ashantis. So in 1824, the agreement was signed with the condition that the chiefs were to come under the British rule for the British to protect them against the Ashantis. So the first battle after the agreement was fought between the British and the Ashantis at Nsamanko near Dodowa, and the British were defeated during 1824. So in 1826, the British defeated the Ashantis at Akantamanso. During 1843, the British appointed Commander Hill, who was then governor of Sierra Leone, to act as a governor in Gold Coast. So the British continued to influence the people of Gold Coast until the whole country became British colony in 1902 through the following. So one is by agreement. The Fantis and other southern chiefs such as Cape Coast, Anumabu, Asin, Accra, Krobo, and Akwamu signed an agreement with the British to seek protection from the British. against the Asantes in 1874. Another one is persuasion. So the northern territories were colonized through what? Persuasion. And one is by force. The Asante state was very strong and did not want to be under the control of the British. So the Asantes was forced by the British to be under the British colony after they were defeated in the Yasantua War in 1901. So referendum, and the study case is the part of Ghana which was known as Transvolta Togoland became part of the British colony through a referendum. This happened after Germany, their colonial master, was defeated in the Second World War. So now let's come and learn something called the bond of 1844. Okay, we have learned that Commander Hay was one of the British governors in the Gold Coast. So on 6 March 1844, Commander Hill signed a treaty or an agreement with some chiefs of the southern states at the Palaver Hall. So this agreement signed between Commander Hill and the rulers, that is chiefs of the southern states. So it's often known as what? The Bond of 1844. So the Bond of 1844 is an agreement signed between Commander Hill and the rulers, that is the chiefs of the southern states. So let's look at chiefs that signed the Bond of 1844 with Commander Hill. So at first, Commander Hill brought some 7 chiefs of the southern states and signed the treaty with them. So these chiefs were from Denchura, Cape Coast, Abora, Anomabu, Asin, Domazi, and Dominase. So later, between March and December 1844, 11 more rulers also signed the treaty. These chiefs were also from Gomua, Asumako, Wasafiasi, Wasaminfi, Ekumfi, Esikuma, Fifo, Nsaba, Mfuma, that the Discoff, and Jamestown, Accra. So the first 7 states, the chiefs, and then the 11. So when you add them, we had 18 chiefs who signed the Bond of 1844. So now the bond has been signed. Let us go inside the bond. The terms of the bond. What were supposed to be done in the bond? So the terms of the bond. One says what? The chiefs were to accept the British power to protect their people and maintain justice. So that's the first of the bond. The second one, the local people were to stop human sacrifices and other bad practices. And then the third of the bond, the terms, the third one is criminal cases like murder and robbery were to be tried in courts made of British judges and the local rulers. So the question is, why was the Bond of 1844 signed? Okay, now, 1. The bond was signed to recognize Captain George Maclean's achievement. Okay, Captain George Maclean, leaving office, had exercised British influence in Ghana without any official approval. Therefore, Commander Hill saw the need to complete a treaty with the local chiefs which would justify Maclean's actions. So this is the reason why the bond was signed, to recognize Captain George Maclean's achievement. And 2, the Asante threat factor. After Maclean's tripartite treaty of 1831, the British feared that the Asante would attack the coastal states. So in order to protect the individual life and property along the coast, Commander Hill signed the bond of 1844. When we say 3 parties, we are talking about 3 parties involved of something. To put an end, number 3, to put an end to human sacrifice and other evil acts. Human sacrifices and other bad practices were common among the people. The state that signed the bond were expected to stop human sacrifices and other evil things. And then the 4th one is to maintain justice and peace along the coast. Commander Hill managed to sign the bond with the chiefs in order to maintain justice and peace, and then to recognize British laws in Ghana. The bond was also signed because the British wanted their laws to work well or successfully in southern Ghana. So these are the reasons why the bond of 1844 signed. So let's go to our next topic. How the different areas, when we say different areas, we are talking about the colony, the Asante, the Northern Territories, and the British Mandate Togoland became one territory known as what? The Gold Coast. So first we will define colonization. So colonization is taking control of the administration of people or a country by another country, or by taking over the function of government in one country by a foreign power. The country that is ruled by another country is called the colony. For example, Ghana was ruled by Britain, so Ghana was a British colony. The country that rules another country is called the colonial master. So Britain was Ghana's colonial master. In colonial times, the administration of southern Ghana was different from that of the Asante, Northern Territories, and the British Togoland. So this was because the Asante colony was considered as conquered state, whereas the Northern Territory and the British Togoland as the protectorate. Protectorate refers to territories placed under the protection of a much more powerful country. For this reason, Asante, Northern Territories, and the British Togoland were ruled directly by the governor. Southern Ghana, or the country proper, on the other hand, had an executive and a legislative council to help the governor in the admonition of the country. So this is before the British arrival in Ghana. So we are talking about how the various parts of Ghana were brought together. So before the British arrival in Ghana, the Asantes were the most powerful state during the period. The Asantes were also very wealthy because their area of jurisdiction abounded in resources. This made the Asantes domineering over the other less powerful states, that is the southern states. So the Asantes controlled the southern states and infringed upon their freedom. Thus, the Fanti states wanted their freedom, and this consequently led to the signing of the bond of 1844. This bond was signed between the British Crown, represented by Commander Hill, and a number of the Fanti states. The main motive for the signing of this bond was that the Fanti states would be protected from the powerful Asante by the British, and in return, the Fanti states would stop certain inhuman practices such as human sacrifice. By the signing of this bond, the southern state, also known as the colony, indirectly became a protectorate of the British. So it was this coastal town that was under the control of the British that became known as what? The Gold Coast colony. So the British went to war with the Asante on a number of occasions. In the Yasantua War, the Asante were defeated by the British and were finally annexed by Britain. So the British became interested in the Northern Territories north of Asante. So after 1896, protection was given to the northern areas where trade with the coast had been controlled by the Asante. Thus, the Northern Territories were proclaimed a British protectorate in 1902. So with the north under British control, the three territories of the Gold Coast, we are talking about the colony, that is coastal regions, the Asante and the Northern Territories, became a political unit known as the Gold Coast. The borders of the present-day Ghana were realized in May 1956, when the people of the Volta region, known as British Mandated Togoland, voted in the plebiscite The plebiscite is yes or no vote to become part of Ghana. So that by the beginning of the 20th century, Ghana had been brought firmly under the British colonial rule. Okay, so this brings us to the close of the lesson, but I have few questions for you to answer for me. So the first question is, define the term colonization, and then locate the areas class. What is colonization or colonialism? No, the first one is define colonization. Number 2 is what is colonialism, and then number 3 dash dot refers to territories placed under the protection of a much more powerful country. Leaves a space and start refers to territories placed under the protection of a much more powerful country. Number 4, what is a plebiscite? What is a plebiscite? Number 5, mention the 4 parts of the country that came together to form the Gold Coast. Mention the 4 parts of the country that came together to form the Gold Coast.